Elizabeth Taylor's love for Richard Burton was as intense as it was toxic. 3 days after his death, she received a letter from him, and its contents broke her. Elizabeth Taylor exuded glitz and glamour. Her iconic turn as Cleopatra only cemented what her fans already suspected. Elizabeth Taylor was Hollywood royalty. Her scandalous love life may have filled gossip magazines, but away from the public eye, Taylor was generous, whip-smart, and acutely sensitive to the struggles of those around her. Elizabeth Taylor was born in Hampstead, England in 1932. Her parents, originally from the United States, moved to California in 1939 to escape World War II. Taylor's mother, Sarah Southern, was a well-known stage actress with several Broadway credits to her name. Rumors swirled that Sarah and notorious MGM boss Louis B. Mayer were having an affair. Sarah may have had feelings for Mayer, but her daughter definitely didn't. Elizabeth hated the studio head with a passion. Even though he supported her career as a child star, she thought he was incredibly egotistical and overbearing. Taylor once said he resembled a gross, thick penguin and looked at his employees and stars like they were all completely squashable. When the time came, she'd tell him exactly what she thought of him. Tragedy struck on the set of National Velvet, a movie Taylor shot when she was 12. A horse named King Charles, known to be aggressive, behaved himself around Taylor until one dark day. The horse threw her, causing a serious back injury. Taylor immediately forgave the animal and even arranged to keep King Charles after filming ended. However, the injury she sustained would plague her for the rest of her life. When she was just a teenager, her boss, Louis B. Mayer, insulted her mother. Elizabeth Taylor was not about to take that lying down. The young star held her head high and told Mayer that he and his studio can go to HELL. Even though Mayer's employees pressured her to apologize, the gutsy actress refused. Perhaps because of her early start in Hollywood, Taylor was a precocious and overly mature child. This had some shocking consequences. One of her biographers claims that at a very young age, Taylor had an affair with 36-year-old Ronald Reagan, then a well-known actor. In 1950, Taylor walked down the aisle for the first time when she married hotel heir Conrad Hilton Jr., and the rumored reason for their marriage is horrifying. MGM has never admitted it, but film historians believe the studio played a major role in Taylor's wedding to Hilton. They suggested the relationship, bought her an expensive wedding dress, and even provided the white negligee for her wedding night. But though the wedding looked like a dream, the marriage was a nightmare. The couple divorced just 3 months later after a lengthy European honeymoon, citing irreconcilable differences. Behind closed doors, Taylor was horrified by Hilton's constant gambling and drinking. She later revealed he was also physically abusive. After divorcing Hilton, Taylor starred in a romantic comedy called Love is Better Than Ever, but few people know about the dark drama behind the lighthearted flick. MGM had forced her to appear in the movie to punish her for leaving her abusive husband. What's more romantic than literally paying a girl to marry you? If you ask Howard Hughes, the notoriously eccentric director and inventor, nothing. He fell for the young Liz Taylor and offered her parents a 6-figure sum if they'd let him put a ring on their daughter's finger. Wisely, Taylor declined Hughes' proposal. Elizabeth Taylor's next husband was Michael Wilding. Wilding was a whopping 20 years older than Taylor, though it seems he was the immature one in the relationship. After having 2 sons together, the couple broke up when Taylor discovered that Wilding had hired female entertainers for pool parties while she was away. But that wasn't the only scandal in their marriage. The venomous gossip columnist Hedda Hopper believed Wilding was hiding a secret from his new bride, that he was actually attracted to men. Hopper implied that Wilding and his male friend Stuart were closer than they let on. Taylor and Wilding married anyway, but that didn't stop Hopper from publishing multiple columns suggesting Wilding had a wandering eye. James Dean is one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking examples of a star gone too soon, but few people felt his loss as deeply as Elizabeth Taylor. At the time of his death, she was filming Giant with Dean and Rock Hudson. On the day the crew learned of Dean's death, director George Stevens forced a grieving Taylor to film reaction shots for a scene that would have involved Dean. Taylor was so heartbroken and appalled by the director's insensitivity that she never forgave him. One night, Montgomery Clift reluctantly agreed to attend a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's house. He was exhausted and tried to get out of it, but Taylor wouldn't take no for an answer. Driving home afterward, Cliff fell asleep at the wheel and crashed his car into a tree. Taylor, horrified, ran to the wreck and stayed by his side until an ambulance arrived. Though Clift survived, the accident left him disfigured. Clift developed a dependency on painkillers, and his behavior became more and more erratic. It became so bad that no studio would hire him. Taylor remained fiercely loyal to her friend. She demanded he be cast in a film with her, even putting up her own salary as insurance. Tragically, Clift died before filming began. He was just 45 years old. It was a truly terrible loss. After divorcing Michael Wilding in 1957, Taylor quickly walked down the aisle again, this time with producer Mike Todd. Todd was a famous high-powered showman who loved spectacles. For Elizabeth's birthday, he rented Madison Square Garden, invited 18,000 guests, and had the entire event broadcast on CBS. Mike Todd was incredibly wealthy and constantly showered his new bride with jewels and luxurious gifts. Before long, the press accused Taylor of being a gold digger, but the couple had bigger problems than public opinion. When Elizabeth Taylor, Mike Todd, and Debbie Reynolds went out together, Reynolds was shocked by how violently Taylor and Todd fought with each other. When she stepped in to defend her friend, Taylor told her to back off and added that to her and Mike, fights weren't fights, they were foreplay. In 1957, Taylor and Todd had a daughter named Liza. Elizabeth Taylor beat out Marilyn Monroe for the role of Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Initially, she was thrilled to land the part. But her world fell apart when her beloved husband Mike Todd died in a plane crash, on the very same day filming began. Her grief triggered a terrible stutter, which fortunately was suppressed by her character's Southern accent. Taylor's marriage to Todd was the only one that didn't end in divorce. Taylor described him as one of the three great loves of her life, alongside Richard Burton and her jewelry. All the drama with Mike Todd couldn't hold a candle to the absolute media frenzy caused by Taylor's next conquest. Mere hours after Hollywood heartthrob Eddie Fisher divorced America's sweetheart Debbie Reynolds, Elizabeth Taylor did the unthinkable. She practically pranced down the aisle with Fisher, and that wasn't even the worst part. Before Taylor married Fisher, she and Debbie Reynolds had been best friends. Imagine the scandal. In the throes of Taylor and Fisher's illicit affair, Debbie Reynolds called her gal pal Elizabeth to chat. Unfortunately for Reynolds, the person who picked up wasn't Taylor, it was her cheating husband, Eddie Fisher. Allegedly, Reynolds icily said, "Roll over, darling, and let me talk to Elizabeth." After being dragged through the mud for her relationship with Eddie Fisher, Elizabeth Taylor decided to retire from movies following 1958's Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Unfortunately for her, MGM had other plans. After a heated contract dispute, the studio forced her to star in Butterfield 8, in which she played an adult entertainer opposite her real-life husband, Eddie Fisher. Taylor resented being forced into the movie and let the director know it. She refused to speak to him for the entire shoot. Although Elizabeth Taylor reportedly disliked working on Butterfield 8, her performance received widespread acclaim. In fact, the role earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, her first Oscar. Still, Taylor remained critical of the film, infamously remarking, "I still say it stinks." In 1961, Taylor began filming Cleopatra, the most expensive movie ever made at the time. She received $1 million for portraying the Queen of the Nile, making her the highest-paid actress in history up to that point. Reflecting on her paycheck, Taylor once said, "If someone's dumb enough to offer me $1 million to make a picture, I'm certainly not dumb enough to turn it down." Taylor shocked the world when she converted to Judaism in 1959, after her husband Mike Todd's death. Though Todd was Jewish, Taylor said her choice was purely personal. Upon her conversion, she took the Hebrew name Elisheba Rachel. Taylor was thrilled, but not everyone was happy. Taylor's conversion to Judaism nearly jeopardized the filming of Cleopatra. The Egyptian government initially barred Taylor from entering the country because she had converted to the Jewish faith. Cleopatra would mark the beginning of one of the most famous and tumultuous relationships in Hollywood history. Elizabeth Taylor met actor Richard Burton on set, and they began a romantic relationship despite both being married. The highly publicized affair drew widespread media attention and was even criticized by religious institutions. Cleopatra was a notoriously troublesome movie to film, but nothing compared to the day that Elizabeth Taylor nearly died. During production, Taylor began to suffer one of her frequent bouts of pneumonia. This one was so severe that when an assistant found Taylor, her face had turned a terrifying shade of blue. The actress had to be given an emergency tracheotomy and was so sick that several news agencies reported that she had actually died. During her illness, she had a heartbreaking vision. The actress claimed that she saw her deceased husband, Mike Todd, who told Taylor it wasn't her time yet, but that when it was, he'd be waiting for her on the other side. Taylor and Eddie Fisher divorced in 1964. Remarkably, she reconciled with his former wife, actress Debbie Reynolds, after the end of her marriage to Fisher. Taylor and Fisher never spoke again following their separation. In 1966, Taylor starred alongside Burton in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, a groundbreaking film that tackled mature themes and controversial language. Its release prompted the Motion Picture Association of America to revise its film rating system, ultimately introducing the 18A rating. Taylor and Burton's relationship was famously intense and complex. They married, divorced, then remarried before divorcing again in 1976. During one of the high points of their relationship, Burton gifted Taylor a 69-carat diamond, which became one of the world's most famous jewels. The stone was insured for $1 million and could only be worn 30 days a year. After their final separation, Taylor sold the diamond to fund a hospital in Botswana. Richard Burton, Taylor's two-time ex-husband, kept detailed diaries throughout his life. The journals were published after his death and featured scathing remarks about rival actors and Burton's own films. However, some of his most biting comments were aimed at Taylor. He once wrote, "All the bad things that have ever happened to me have always happened in Rome," referring to the chaotic Cleopatra production. He also claimed Elizabeth Taylor had sometimes been so intoxicated during the shoot that she could barely read a script. Taylor's seventh marriage was to politician John Warner. She struggled to adjust to life in Washington, D.C., and began to rely on alcohol and prescription medication. The couple divorced in 1982. Even later in life, Taylor continued to pursue romance. In 1991, she married construction worker Larry Fortensky, who was 20 years her junior. Their marriage lasted nearly 5 years and ended amicably. Taylor was known for her love of animals and once joked, "Some of my best leading men have been dogs and horses." She even wrote a children's book about one of her animal co-stars. When faced with the prospect of having her dogs quarantined upon entry to the UK, she instead docked them on a yacht just offshore to avoid the quarantine rules. The luxurious arrangement drew attention from the press and was seen as another example of Taylor's extravagant lifestyle. Many would agree that Taylor's eyes were her most compelling feature, but doctors would classify them as a mutation.
For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details.
Taylor had a mutation of the FOXC2 gene, which results in an extra pair of eyelashes. The double eyelashes made Taylor's eyes stand out, but they also posed considerable risks. Often the extra set of lashes can curl inward, poking and scratching the cornea. Taylor's eyelashes may have been natural, but her purple eyes were not. Taylor's eyes were blue, but her publicists employed a number of cosmetic and photographic effects to give them a distinct violet color. Violet eyes are found in just 1% of the population. Taylor was not among that 1%. In addition to her many marriages, Taylor had brief flings with a diverse group of public figures. Her former boyfriends include Unsolved Mysteries host Robert Stack, actors Peter O'Toole and Mickey Rooney, Watergate reporter Carl Bernstein, and glam rock icon David Bowie. In 1985, Elizabeth Taylor's entire world changed. Her beloved lifelong friend and fellow actor Rock Hudson died from AIDS, leading Taylor to devote much of her time to raising awareness and funds for AIDS research. By 1997, the American Foundation for AIDS Research, which Taylor co-founded, had raised more than $83 million. In the later years of her life, Taylor suffered with significant health issues. Not only did she struggle with addiction and diabetes, she also underwent more than 40 surgeries, including several hip replacement surgeries, a hysterectomy, and treatments for skin cancer, heart failure, and a brain tumor. She was hospitalized more than 100 times. Taylor's health issues forced her to retire from acting, but she didn't go down without a fight. In a heartbreaking interview with Barbara Walters, Taylor admitted that while she didn't actually wish to stop appearing in films, no film company would insure her, so she had no other options. Taylor once said that Richard Burton was the last great love of her life. She said, "All the men after Richard were really just company." Elizabeth Taylor received Richard Burton's last love letter after attending his memorial service. When she saw his handwriting, she fell apart. From then on, she kept the letter next to her bed. Although she revealed many of his other letters, this one she kept for herself. However, she did say this about Burton's final letter. In it, he told me what he wanted. Home was where Elizabeth was, and he wanted to come home. Elizabeth Taylor died on March 23, 2011. Taylor's coffin arrived 15 minutes after her funeral was scheduled to begin. She stated in her will that she wanted to be late, fashionable, even in death. After she passed, many people wondered if she would be buried near her beloved Richard Burton, even though they weren't together at the time of either one's death. Richard's actual widow, Sally Hay, made darn sure that wouldn't happen. Hay bought the plots surrounding Burton's grave and put a massive gravestone across both plots, with many believing she was marking her territory. Elizabeth Taylor was not buried with Richard Burton, but it was her final wish to be buried with the letter she received from him after he died. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.